Luckily, I wasn't one of those people who sat on the couch on a Sunday night with a stomachache when thinking of the next morning or after a vacation. But 4 years ago, I was still at a point in my life where when someone asked me about my employer, my answer was financial service provider instead of debt collection. And where the first thing I said was Otto Group instead of the real name of my former company. And where I directly started to explain myself why I work in that industry at that company. That was certainly due to the standard question that directly came up. Moscow Inkasso, those, or Moscow debt collection, those with the baseball bats? No, of course not. Are then those who are continuously in the tabloids for imposing the highest interest rates on old ladies for years? No, not really. But what you can see is that thoughts are created in the mind about topics and associations take place, basically the same as an employer brand image. If I now tell you that I'm pretty good at karate, probably more than half of you will think, oh, she must know Mr. Miyagi. Maybe she was one of her students. And shortly afterwards, you might ask yourself, is she able to destroy stones? She has to be. No, I'm not. I wish I could. Prejudice. We all know them, that we have experienced them before, and it's only human. So as with the debt collection agency, these also arise about companies as employers. And employers, as well as companies in general, often choose a way to positively influence this image with something higher or more superior. And that's what the said debt collection agency did a year before I quit. A purpose was needed. Something that shines, that also outshines what outdated structures were entrenched in this company. Something that could shine the product behind it away. So the slogan was for a debt-free world. That sounds much more attractive than debt collection agency. And it kept me going, but it couldn't make me stay. Because in addition to the fact that I was personally in my comfort zone, I regularly reached limits in my professional area. So the average age in that company was high above mine, which is certainly, of course, not a bad thing in the first place, but the openness to change and rethinking things differently was also very limited. So I knew I wasn't going to grow there for the rest of my professional career, as I couldn't identify with the corporate culture, the people, and the attitude they had. Luckily, new work came around for a better working life. Wow. I was supposed to work on the future of the working world. That sounded great. I proudly told my friends and family, I'm also going to influence your future of work. And where do I need to sign? I want to quit. Here I am. So I started over. I quit my former company and started a new work. This purpose was worlds better. But what I didn't really know at that time is what really differentiated this company from my old employer. I met people full of motivation, people who asked me if they could still support my field I'm working in, who were really willing to go the extra mile, always for the greater picture. So who carried me along and who I could ignite, who had speed and who were very proud to work at New Work. While I was a butterfly among 8,000 in the debt collection world, standing out with my attitude and my approach, my way of working, here I was among my peers. So lots of butterflies. I will go fast forward now into the here and now. At New Work SE, we have a great product landscape. Even though one is struggling, we'll get there soon. We have a great purpose. And yet we came to the point last year where we realized that talents are not flooding our company and that also we have issues to fill our positions. Why that? Our purpose is attractive, product is attractive. So how can that be? And in our opinion, the answer is quite easy and obvious. Because everyone has a purpose. We need more to make us stand out, to differentiate ourselves from other employers. Over time, many companies of all sizes have realized that they need to do something, that employer branding is a thing, that they need to ask themselves, why are we in this market? Why do we exist? And sentences like these happen to come into the world, and I'm sure most of you know them. Refresh the world, make a difference. From Coca-Cola. This might be a bit difficult. Connecting people, improving lives. This could be, I think, anything. And you probably don't think it's DHL. stand for a debt-free world, as I said, EOS, and for a better working life, New Work SE. And that is per se exactly right and important to do so. Everyone should know why their company exists, and in the best case, of course, it has a sustainable, positive purpose and a great product. But in the war for talent that we are currently in, and especially in the tech sector, it needs so much more than just a purpose. It takes more to differentiate ourselves. So it needs an attitude and identity. We need our peers. And by that, I don't mean like masses of the same people. It definitely so needs diversity. But what I say is that it needs an attitude that is shared, that you share with your colleagues, with your company, with your manager. That's a culture you can identify with. And all this can be shaped and can be influenced by employer branding.
Exactly. So the relevance of employer branding has already reached the market. I think most of you have noticed that employer branding products are in greater demand than ever. Studies are appearing which address this issue and attracting the right talents. And every headline of the latest marketing blog post says something with employer branding. Quick digression though, what has developed in the market within the last 3 to 4 years has been there in the literature since the 60s. So even back then, people started to analyze what do companies need in order to be attractive and retain talents. Further, there are already a fair amount of best practices. So companies who understand how to picture their company image, how to let their employer branding or their employer brand shine. Examples are Spotify, Meta, and I think we at New Work don't do such a bad job either. What else is important when it comes to employer branding? Well, storytelling, of course, because when we think about the Gen Z especially, we need good storytelling to show the authentic way how the company is, how the culture is building, and how we really are. Because nowadays it's so easy to just look into social media or check any, for example, Kununu profiles and to get a feeling of how the company really is, and on the contrary, how the company itself pictures themselves in the internet. So to put it in a nutshell, the relevance of employer branding is increasing and is in high demand. So because it can serve as a differentiator for companies in today's market. However, to actually achieve this level of relevance and practice, we need something to be changed in the structure of the company. Because this is what it looks like in most of the companies, I guess, and what it also looks like in our company last year. On the one hand, we have the corporate brand, and on the other hand, we have the employer brand. Both brands share the same core. So, for example, they share the same brand values, the same design, but also have wide areas that differ, such as target groups or channels, and which were previously rather separated from each other. I think that many of you are aware of this and may face a similar challenge, and are therefore probably aware of the frustration that can happen on both sides, because the brands are interlinked yet separated, and the departments may not work as closely together as they should. Of course, the corporate brand should not be changed. That's not our goal. It shouldn't differ from its previous version. However, we need to give the employer brand a different status, so a different relevance in the company, because it should be rather equal to the corporate brand, because otherwise it cannot be as strong and present in the companies as they need it to be. And by saying that, I'm very happy that today, for us, it looks like this. So the employer brand is stretching the corporate brand, and to put it even into some nice words, the employer brand is a continuation of the corporate brand with its own target group of current and future employees, and is influenced by the respective brands of New Work SE. But why do we insist on this whole branding topic? Why do we say, well, the employer brand is an actual brand? Because it's not something that we came up with. It's something that has been in the literature for quite a while, and which gives us an idea of how to, let's say, correctly understand and implement an employer brand, and thus employer branding. I brought a quote, which I won't read, but the interesting part of this quote is that it gives us an understanding where to put the employer brand and where it derives from. So on the one hand, we have HR, which is quite obvious, I guess, but then we have also marketing communications and branding concepts. So this approach and the understanding that the employer brand is an actual brand, a real brand, let's say it like that, gives us the possibility to think brand strategically within this topic. And now it gets interesting because when we talk about a brand, we cannot leave out one of the most important factors when talking about branding, which is the point of one's own identity. To touch upon that real quick, every person has a sense of its own identity and understanding of what you identify with or as. Things like possessions, family, friends, products, and thus brands that you use define you, and you can display who you really are. The good thing for us, though, is that we can measure the level of congruence of the connection of one's self-identity and, for example, let's say a brand. So we are able to depict of how strong people identify with, let's say, the brand their shoes are made of. And to go into that a little bit later, to go into more details, I really want to stress out at that point that when we realize this opportunity and transfer this knowledge that we would normally use when it comes to product brands, when we transfer that into employer branding or the field of the employer brand, we have a totally different approach, which we haven't had before. And to make it a little bit clearer why this realization is so significant for us in the field of employer branding, let's have a look at the two, let's say, biggest challenges that we face at New Work SE. I'm quite sure that at least one of the challenges is also quite relevant for you, and which is the external challenge, because we all are in the same market, which is an employee market. I don't have to define that, but we are currently undergoing a change in values. So people can choose their employing company. It's not so much more about security in the job market, but rather how does the job fit to my personal life? To what extent can I identify with my employing company? The second challenge, though, is internally, and Malin already said something about that, because we have, on the one hand, that one employer brand, which is the New Work SE, but we have 6 product brands which are under the umbrella of the New Work SE. So, of course, we have, or amongst our employees, there are rising questions like, who do I belong to, what do I identify with, and so on and so forth. So when do I say them, and when do I say us? And we have taken both of these issues as an opportunity to approach the topic using the brand identity approach. To put it in a nutshell real quick, we have those 6 brands. We have this one purpose, as Malin said before, but we added another layer, which is that one identity, that one common base we all stand upon, which unites us basically. I think that sounds great, right? So it almost sounds like a marketing activity, but we want to have or give you more than those shiny words and that strategy, because we can measure this, as I said before. And coming to those measurabilities, we can focus internally on some measures or measurabilities. So of course we did that identity study, which I will talk a bit in a minute about. But then there are various other surveys you can conduct within your company to get a feeling how your employees are satisfied or how they feel, and workshops to even get qualitative feedback. Externally, there are also a number of good things you can do. For example, look at the Kununu reviews, look at comments on social media, and so forth, so on and so forth, to get a feeling how your company is depicted externally. And to come back to the identity study, as I said, we conducted this study last year. So we wanted to measure to what extent do our employees identify with their employing company, which happens to be the New Work SE. And as we started, we asked ourselves 3 guiding questions, which were: how aware are they of the employer brand? Do the employees identify themselves with the employer brand? And what do our employees need to identify even more with the employer brand? And since we don't have that much time to go into the nitty-gritty, just some facts about the study. What we did is we used existing surveys from the literature who actually measure exactly what we wanted and edited to our own advantage. And we gave our employees several statements. For example, I can identify with the new work SE, and then we asked them to rate that statement on a Likert scale from 1 to 5. The higher the score, the more they identify with the company and the more they agree with the score. At the end, we were able to depict an identity score, which we will continuously do throughout the years to have comparison or comparative figures. Having said this, it is probably quite interesting now to have a look of how to put all this knowledge and strategy into action. So what does it mean for us on a daily basis? How do we break it down, and how do we achieve to increase our identity score and therefore the attractiveness of our employer brand?
By ensuring that all content, all stories, and all features in the entire candidate experience cycle are in line with our employer promise, matching talent with opportunities. In concrete terms, this means for us, we see ourselves as matchmakers, and that is the promise we make. We offer our employees the perfect conditions and opportunities to continuously develop themselves and to professionally and personally grow. So we want them to have a place where they can become the best version of themselves. Then we have 3 pillars that represent our core: do what you really, really want, build an inspiring team, and work on what matters. So to give you an example for this, when we say we want our employees to become the best version of themselves and understand us as matchmakers. For example, if you are a software engineer and you want to become an agile coach, we support this as an employer. That's the topic of internal mobility. So we try to give you the space to grow professionally and personally, and we specifically address this topic in our company with campaigning, with communication, with a SharePoint site, with flyers, posters, and also with trainings to integrate it in our leadership mindset. Because we don't want people, managers, to be mad at their employees or feel personally insulted in case they want to change the teams. For us as an employer, it is better to let talents change internally, the product, the team, the brand, instead of losing them to the job market and to the outside. So all this contributes to it being a real experience and not just empty words from us. And how do we make this positioning a consistent experience and thus actively shape our employer brand? By seeing it holistically and ensuring that it is carried through in any measures. Of course, it means a lot of work. And as you can see, this is the product portfolio we offer as a team, employer branding. So we have 3 pillars here: awareness and knowledge transfer, where we place the employer brand throughout the New Work SE and also externally with talks like we are doing it now here, case studies, articles, blog posts. And the second pillar is all about content, marketing, and communication, as you can see. And the third pillar is us being a strategic partner to our brands and also our other HR departments, because everything we do reflects on us as an employer. And all this pays off in the bottom at perception and experience, because we just don't want to put empty words outside there. Why is it so important that we are so strategic here? Because it doesn't work anymore that if you just post a picture of a cute dog online or of your fresh fruits, nice table soccer, etc. But proper functional employer branding only works from the inside to the outside. That means that all internal communication is aligned with our positioning. And it's not about being present everywhere, but rather about being authentic and on the relevant channels. So you shouldn't polish anything that you can't deliver up to in the inside, and you shouldn't promise anything you can't deliver. So what is it that you can show to the outside? It's your culture, your people, and your stories. So just to give you a quick example, last year, we produced a video format about job and mental health. And a colleague of us had a difficult time over a month, and rather than dropping her in that difficult situation, we stand by her side as an employer and encourage her now to talk about it in the company, to show other employees that it's real and okay to struggle and that we help each other. And it's both equally important, the mental health and the job. So the next question would be, how do we ensure that we communicate holistically on all our channels? And how do we show the inside to the outside? First and foremost, of course, on our careers page. Every action we take links to our careers page at the end. It's our main hub for communication, and their talents can dive into our new work world and experience what kind of employer are we, what kind of people work here, what kind of projects do we have. We relaunched this sorry, I didn't click, last year with a lot of content and managed to double the conversion rate, which was very successful for us. Of course, when you're looking for a job, you have to look in the job ads. We also relaunched those last year and are now showing the salary range for the job on there. We are also showing our Kununu ratings because we don't have to hide anything, our benefits. We even included a 3D virtual tour where you can explore our offices. And the relaunch of the job ads after some studies we did led to an increase of the conversion rate to 13%. And I don't have to tell you this, it's very good. As we run out of time, I'm trying to keep it very quick. We are also, of course, on the relevant social media channels. At present, there are different channels for different target groups, but always on the newer careers. And of course, the content needs to be prepared differently here, more snackable, short insights, and just teasers to the careers page. In case you want to see us live, we are also on events and fairs, and this happens to be successful also that we receive unsolicited applications without even having advertised jobs, simply because those talents met us at one of our events. Since last year, we are also big in campaigns. In employer branding, we're just starting, but that's, for example, our sales campaign. And most important, as we already said, is authenticity. So we just showed our own employees here. And that campaign led to a landing page where you can apply. And that was also a first mover for us without a CV and apply in under 5 minutes. To sum it up, you need content. And our takeaways from this sessions are that it takes more than just the purpose. And keep in mind that your internal employer branding reflects on external employer branding and that you need to have authentic content and storytelling. Track your content to analyze the success and derive optimized measures from it. And at the end, use your employees as brand ambassadors to increase your positive word of mouth.
Wonderful. One question that we have from the audience, and please do not forget to post all your questions into the Q&A section, is what is the best way to divide the content, all the content that a company communicates on social media? How much of that should be rather product related, and can all that take place on the same channel, or does it need a dedicated employer branding channel?
Actually, we decided that everything that is about our people that are working at our company is on our careers channel. And everything that we post about our products is on our product channels. And I think it's both important, and you have to equally put it in like 50-50 to tell something about the culture, the company itself, being an employer, and then the product. Because both is relevant for the future talents.
We have a question from the audience, which it seems like someone from the audience has a situation where his or her boss is not super open for employer branding activities. So the question is, what is the best way to approach the boss of a company and convince that person that it's the right thing to invest into employer branding activities?
I think the first approach that you should take is the issue of relevance. So we had the same struggles. Of course, we had something before, but in order to elevate this topic within the company, we did a lot of research, looked into the market, looked at best practices. So all that which was on the slide of relevance was something that really helped us to elevate the topic in general. And also you can look at some numbers, because once you have an attractive employer brand, it's much more easy to find talents and to retain talents, and then it's much more cost efficiency in the long run as well.
All right. One question that I was thinking about is, I see many companies that try to leverage their employees as employee ambassadors, I would say, for their employer branding. And many of these companies, they always struggle a little bit between the question, how much should I guide them? How much should I provide them with content that they then share on their channels as employer branding ambassadors? Because provided content makes sure that it's always like 100% on brand and on strategy. But the disadvantage is it might not be too authentic. So what is the best way to find a balance between these two interests?
I'll take that. So I think again the truth lays in between, because of course you should have guidance which you can tell or enable your employees with by giving workshops, etc., to really let them know how should the design look like, what's the tonality, and so on and so forth. But then on the other hand, we do need authenticity, and we can only be authentic if people speak their mind. So they should be open and say what they want to say. And I mean, just give it a try, and afterwards you can go and reflect on it and maybe twist and tweak things that didn't work before.
Great. I see many reactions in the chat, so many hearts and thumbs up. So I think that is your virtual kind of applause for your presentation. Thank you, Malin. Thank you, Julia, for being with us and giving us all these insights.